Chapter 2. Some practical steps that will help you build a prosperity consciousness. Start right where you are with what you have, but you say, "I don't have anything." That's what the widow said to Elisha when he asked her what she had in the house. "I have nothing." "Come now, you must have something," he urged. Finally, she admitted that she did have a little pot of oil. So the great prophet told her to start with what she had. She was instructed to send her sons out to borrow from the neighbors all of the vessels they could find, and he cautioned her not a few. And when they borrowed the vessels, they were to pour from that little pot of oil until they were all full. And what do you know? The oil did not stop flowing until every vessel was full. Then Elisha told her to sell the oil and pay her debts, and live with her boys on the rest of the money. There's such a wonderful lesson here. The vessels that they borrowed represent their measure of faith. Had they borrowed twice as much, they would have had twice as much oil to sell. And so it is with us. We set our own limitations. You can take a cup or a bucket to the sea and fill it with water. The sea does not question the size of your vessel, nor does the sea of universal consciousness question the size of your faith. According to your measure of consciousness, it is measured to you. What do you have? Right where you are is a mine of resources more valuable than gold. You have creative imagination. You have intuition to guide you, and creatively to build beautiful buildings and paint gorgeous pictures. Right within you is a reservoir of love and understanding that can overcome any problem and inspiration that will move men's hearts as well as mountains. Start with what you have and move confidently forward. Some practical steps to help you get started. The first step is to marshal all of your assets, spiritual, mental, and physical. Do you really know what you have? It might be well to make an inventory, being careful not to overlook any hidden assets. You might even have some valuable insurance policies that you thought had lapsed. I once had a friend who was a very successful life insurance agent. He sold more insurance than anybody I've ever known before or since. One of the things that he did was to have his clients search out their hiding places for important papers and look for lapsed life insurance policies. Even though policies were lapsed, they still had a cash value. It was surprising how many people cashed in thousands of dollars from policies that had been lapsed 5, 10, and 20 years. He helped them dig up old stocks and bonds that they had thought were worthless. He had his clients make an inventory of their jewelry, antiques, silver, and anything else that might have value. Before he got through, he had convinced them that they were worth more than they thought they were. More than likely, you are worth more than you think. You may find that your house is filled with valuable antiques. You may have valuable paintings stashed away in the attic. Those old Chinese bowls that Grandma left you may be worth $500 each. That old coin collection Uncle Ben gave you when you were a child may be worth a great deal today, and the old gold jewelry you never really liked may now be very saleable, and worth far more to you invested in some other way. A set of sterling silver flatware lying unused in a drawer may be worth thousands of dollars today. Old newspapers and first edition of books have been found to be worth a fortune. You may be richer than you ever dreamed, and as you marshal your assets, your prosperity consciousness will grow. An aunt of mine down in Houston, Texas, reached that point in life where she felt it was necessary to go into a retirement home. She wondered if she could afford it. Her principal asset was her little house in which she had lived for 50 years. Alas, it was surrounded by tall office buildings, and she questioned whether anyone would want it. Imagine her surprise when the real estate agent said he thought it would sell right away. She wound up getting nearly $1 million for it. A friend of mine was called to be the minister of a church in Oklahoma. When he first walked through the church edifice, he was appalled that such an attractive building had been allowed through neglect to deteriorate so badly. He took the matter up with the board and was told that the church didn't have the money to redecorate, buy new draperies, and do all of the things the new pastor thought were needed. It was a sad beginning to his new assignment. He prayed about it. An inspiration came to him. He decided to talk to the church treasurer. He was told about various funds that were earmarked for, believe it or not, projects that had long since been abandoned. To his amazement, he found about $6,000 loafing, enough and to spare, to do all that was needed. Check out your options. Never take it for granted that you have only one way to go. You may have more viable options than you think. As you open your mind to consider your various opportunities, new ideas will come to you. The best way to do this is to take a pencil and a sheet of paper and start writing down options. Do not consider these your options, but the options available to meet the situation. If you consider them your options, you will be apt to judge them and rule them out before you write them down. A young mother left alone with several young children was starting out on a new job and needed transportation badly. Unfortunately, it had taken every cent she had to pay the first and the last month's rent and the cleaning charge on the apartment she had just rented. What was she to do? She wrote out her options. 1. The perfect right transportation for me exists. 2. There is a right car for me. There is a car that I can afford to buy. She didn't dare examine that third option because at the moment she didn't have a dime in her pocket. The next week a friend of hers called and said, "I hear you're needing an automobile." This, at first, seemed like an answer to prayer. However, the car was worth $500 and the owner wanted at least $100 down. It might as well have been $1,000. She just didn't have it. This was an opportunity she would have to pass up. So she went back to her third option, a car I can afford to buy. She refused to allow herself to become discouraged. Almost immediately the answer came. One of her coworkers told her about a car that she could buy for $125, and it was in excellent condition. It had new tires and a new motor, and it had been kept in tip-top shape. The owner was willing to sell it to her without a down payment. This seemed like a miracle. It actually happened. Had our friend not written down her options without judging them, she might never have recognized this opportunity. Accept the best, and you will have the best. A young man was eating from a plate of grapes when the rabbi came to call. He asked the rabbi, "Shouldn't I always save the best grapes for the last?" The rabbi surprised him by saying, "Always eat the best first, and you'll always be eating the best." How many times we save our best clothes until they are out of style and then wind up hardly getting to wear them at all. When my grandmother died at 98, her daughters found all the lovely things they had sent mother over the years. The hand-embroidered handkerchiefs, the lace-trimmed nightgowns and slips had never been worn. Their mother felt they were too good for everyday wear and kept saving them year after year for a worthy occasion. Always use the best first, and you will always have the best. Store them away, and it is just as if you never had them. Try dressing up now and then. Wear your best clothes. You'll find that when you look prosperous, you will not only feel prosperous, but you will think prosperous thoughts that will go to work for you and bring prosperity into your experience. Clean out your attic and sort out your closets. We all need to get the clutter out of our lives. Why hang on to a lot of old clothes and other things that you will never use again? Let them be someone else's demonstration. Stop hanging on to things for a rainy day. Feel good about sharing with others. The room that you make in your closet will soon be filled with new clothes that will lift your spirits and be a part of your new prosperity. Being generous will make you feel prosperous. Feeling prosperous will bring you the prosperity experience. When is a saving a saving? It's fine to save money, but beware of impoverishing yourself in the process. Ask yourself, does my scrounging really pay off? I have in mind a young couple who thought they'd beat the rap by doing their own moving. Having bought a home on the other side of the mountains, they couldn't bear to pay the moving charge involved in moving a household of furniture, so they rented a truck and did it themselves. 6 trips they made across the mountains before they were through. When the move was finally accomplished, they totaled up the cost and found to their amazement that it had cost much more to do it the way they did, not to mention the back-breaking effort and all the time involved. This works out in so many areas. I know a man who has plenty of money. He can well afford to travel by plane, yet he chooses to drive his car across the continent in order to save money. He and his wife drive night and day, alternating sleep cycles. If they do stop, they stay in the cheapest motels they can find, dirty, run-down places, inhabited by cockroaches and other vermin. He loses a lot of time traveling this way, time that might be worth more than $1 saving. Apparently, this is all he can accept for himself. He just does not have a prosperity consciousness. How much better it would be to stretch a little. If he were to travel by plane, he might not only save time but money in the last analysis. Moreover, he could use the time on the plane to build a prosperity consciousness. We all know people who have scrimped all through life so that they could afford to travel when they retired. And then, at retirement age, the stress of their grim way of life caught up with them, and because of health problems, they were unable to travel at all. Do you expect the best, or do you always settle for third rate? Ralph Buford lived in New Orleans around the turn of the century. In those days, the best way to get from Boston to New Orleans was by ship. So Ralph, having concluded a not-too-successful business trip to Boston, spent the last of his money on a steamship ticket to New Orleans. After he had booked his passage, he had just enough money left to get cheese and crackers. Well, at least I won't starve on the way home, he thought, and so he carefully avoided the dining room throughout the entire trip. On the last day, as the passengers stood on the deck waiting to disembark, one of them spoke to Ralph. "We haven't seen you in the dining room this trip," he remarked. Ralph flushed with embarrassment. "The meals were great," his companion went on, "but where were you?" "No," Ralph confessed, more embarrassed than ever. "I didn't have the means. I brought along some food and ate in my stateroom." His fellow traveler looked up puzzled. "But the meals were all included in the fare," he said. Ralph had a consciousness of lack. He was unable to accept his good. I dare say he had gone through life that way, which probably accounted for his lack of success in business. How many of us go through life passing up the good things to which we are entitled, because we do not claim our good? Our motto should be, use the best and you will always have the best, because you will be building a prosperity consciousness as you go. Expect the best and you will get the best. The master key to prosperity is build a consciousness of prosperity. I have been teaching this for many years, and out of the hundreds of testimonial letters I have received from people, joyfully telling me how it worked for them, I only recall one that strongly stated, "It doesn't work for me." And then he told me why. "I never expect anything," he wrote, "and I'm never disappointed. Does that tell you something? It does me." We have to expect the best in order to receive the best. Start by knowing that consciousness is the only reality. If you have a consciousness of success, that which you accept for yourself will become your experience. If you desire to prosper, know that prosperity is a matter of having a prosperity consciousness. Once you have established a prosperity consciousness, nothing can take it away from you. You will never lack any good thing. Even though you lose everything through some catastrophe such as fire, flood, or robbery, in some magical way it will be restored to you. You may have to start over, but sooner or later you will look around you at your possessions and note that you have everything just as attractive and right for you as you had before. That which you claim for yourself by right of consciousness will always evolve out of the mind stuff into your experience. Sir Arthur Eddington called it mind stuff, and that is what it is, the substance out of which the manifest world is made. Expect the best, and you will get the best. Expect to prosper, and you will. I expect the best, and receive the best. Only good goes from me, and only good returns to me. My father is a millionaire. He wants me to have the best. He wants me to go first class. I accept the best and use the best without guilt or regret. I release the past, knowing that principle is not bound by precedent. I am supplied out of the wealth of infinite abundance, and so it is.